realized that you were actually white.
Yeah.
The same thing is just like, actually, you still black.
black.
Man. You're black. Oh, we have the
Yeah,
things,
exactly.
you know. White people like to sit in the sun, you know,
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
brown,
yeah.
skinny, and black people want to sit in the shades because we're already brown
Yeah,
enough
how
as
do
it
you
is.
do that, for example, in summer, right?
Yeah,
You want to
you
get
see?
brown?
Yeah.
This guy cannot be on sun, he'll be
No.
black.
No.
But I told myself I don't
Yes.
want to compete anymore because I will never be as brown as him.
You need to die first, I
And
think.
you know, with our friends
Yes,
in classes and
yes,
stuff like
yes.
that, we always used to compare like who
Yeah.
got more brown. But you know, this
Exactly.
story is over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about my
'Cause,
health.
okay, Zippora at least have made her confession. It's great to be with an African husband. Glory. You know, we African guy, we like to eat some, you know, good food,
That's
fufu and stuff like that.
So true.
And
true.
here you are with a white wife,
Yes.
white woman.
Yes.
How is it to be a husband
My
to a
friend,
white woman?
it's a mystery that God, I mean, God is an amazing mathematician.
Okay.
He's great. He knows how to program things.
Mm-hmm.
God didn't only give me an European white woman because this woman can make fufu. I mean,
Oh.
you know, I wouldn't say my wife is better than yours. My wife is much better than yours. You know. It's
Yeah.
like she can make fufu. She can cook an African food.
Great.
But one thing I've said to her is this: you are not an African woman,
Mm-hmm.
so don't try to be one.
Mm.
Because if I wanted to marry an African woman, I would have prayed for an African woman.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
But I prayed for an European woman. I prayed for the woman, and God gave me an European woman,
Yeah.
and that's the woman I want. Even the African clothes, all this thingy.
Yeah.
If you go to African party,
Mm-hmm.
I encourage these women there. Don't try to change my woman.
Exactly.
Don't try to change my wife
Yeah.
in becoming an African. Don't try to paint her with all this African clothes and hair stuff. I'm like, no. I love who she is. I love the way she is.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to marry an African woman, I would have married an African
Mm.
woman. But I married an European woman because I love who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to food, my favorite food is lasagna,
Mm.
Italian food.
I'm telling you.
So basically, you know, it's a great match. You know, when God gives, He gives completely.
Yeah.
He doesn't give halfly. He gives you exactly what you need,
Exactly.
so that you won't look back and say, Lord, I'm changing my mind. And if you do, it's going to be your own decision.
Mm.
It won't be because God gave you the wrong thing.
Mm.
No, God gave exactly what you
Say
need.
it. Say it.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm really happy
Yeah.
with my wife.
Let's talk a little bit
Yeah.
more about the culture, right? Because you said something that was really interesting, that your relationship is based on God's principles.
That's right.
That's really interesting. You
That's
understand?
right. Yeah.
Because, well, mostly in Africa, you understand, when you want to get married, for example, you're from Congo and you want to get married to a Burundian girl, or, you know, a girl that she's not from your country, or even the Congolese girl. You know, mostly our parents are like, hey, we have to do it according to our culture.
That's right.
You understand?
So true.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do the wedding according to our culture.
Mhm.
Even Christians, people, we don't mention mostly about let's do it according to God's principles. We go rather to our cultures. Can you say something about it? What is the best way? Is it to follow our cultures or to follow God's principles?
I think God gave us culture
Mm-hmm.
so that we may also identify ourselves and
Mhm.
then know our origins.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think God asked us that that's all that matters, our culture. Because basically the question will be, what is our culture? For a boy who was born in Europe, who's grown up in Europe,
Yeah.
but have African parents, what would you say is the culture of that boy?
Mm-hmm.
Because what is the culture? The culture is the thing that grows you, you're grown around.
Yeah.
If you're grown in the forest, then that's your culture. If you're
Mhm.
grown in the stones, that's your culture. And if you want to get a boy that's born and raised in Africa, in Europe, and dump him in Africa and say that is culture, the boy will be confused
Mhm.
because that's not the boy's culture.
Yeah.
And so,
what is culture?
for me, basically at this point, my culture, I cannot say is being an African.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean that's my origin.
Mhm.
That's where I was born. That's where I was raised.
Yeah.
But that's not my culture anymore.
Okay.
My culture is Europe.
Okay.
Because seriously, if I go to Africa today, people would identify me as an African by skin,
Yeah.
but not by culture.
Okay. So if we try to define culture, you know, what is culture? Is it the lifestyle, your way to think, the way you know, what is culture?
I think
Can you define it?
it's really hard to define what culture is.
Yes.
I think it's like the surroundings,
Mhm.
your religion,
Yeah.
maybe the character of your parents even,
Okay.
or your grandparents, the people you grew up with, the
Yes.
community. I think it's all matters. Like
Okay.
even the school you went to can define like
Yeah.
The culture.
because you have like different kind of, like you have the big picture of the world, you have smaller, and then you have your family, your community. So
Mhm.
you have different levels of being in a culture, I think.
Yeah. Because something I'm trying to understand, right?
Mm.
You are Christians.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Okay. And like you say, you have a culture, a European culture.
That's
you
right.
understand?
That's
But
right.
when you become a Christian, you know, what do you make as your
Yeah.
foundation of life? Do you make God's principles, or do you make European culture
Yeah.
as the foundation of your life?
To answer that question is this: as Christian, it's almost I don't even need to think about it anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because as Christian, we made a decision that godly culture will define who we are,
Mm-hmm.
not our surroundings, not our country of origin.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
that's because my parents today, they can tell me you are Congolese, you know,
Yeah.
and I'll say, yeah, I am Congolese,
Yeah.
but officially I am probably Dutch
Mm-hmm.
or Norwegian.
Mm-hmm.
What makes me Congolese? Because that's where I was born.
You're born there.
That's where my parents are from.
Mm-hmm.
But the culture looks on the paper. So what defined me when I look now becoming a Christian,
Okay.
you know,
Mhm.
when I go to church,
Yeah.
I tell I'm not going to go in the church and start living as a Congolese.
Okay.
No, because it's completely something different. So, you know,
Exactly.
I call
Yes,
myself
yes.
a Christian, and I look at it and I'm saying is that my focus is now in obeying God's principle.
Okay.
And that's why we live in our
Now,
home.
what is the benefit? You know, this question goes to both of you.
Yeah.
What is the benefit of living according to God's principles and not
Wow.
your culture?
No world principle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think when I hear you guys talk, that the only thing that comes up to me is like the most beautiful thing that I experienced throughout becoming a Christian, but also sharing life, is that you can question whatever you're doing. So, you know, the beautiful thing is of being like a mixed couple, you can
Okay.
ask each other the questions. You get like a big mirror in front of your face, and
Yeah.
you know, here's my mirror, and then we ask each other questions like, but why do you do things that you do? So if you would think about like God's principles, that at least we think that are God's principles,
Mm-hmm.
how can you show somebody else that love, you know, godly love? How can you forgive? How can you be graceful? How can you serve other people? And
So true.
I think in everything that we do, I mean, of course we're still trying to get there,
Yeah.
but I think that will be like the foundation that we want to have, is that we
So
can
true.
ask each other about the motivation we have. Like, why is it that you're doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
And I believe that, yeah, that for me is living in God's principle, is that you want to support other people around you, that you want to show them love. And we honestly believe that we were made as worshippers.
So, since the two of you put God principles as your foundation, it makes life easier.
yes.
Honestly,
In a way.
yeah.
Especially in the beginning, it was
Yeah.
like people asked us a lot of questions,
Yes,
like the
yes.
surroundings, like
Yes.
how are you going to do this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are you going to be, like, you know, they always ask me, are you going to be in the kitchen all the time? Or are
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
going to make the food, take care of the
I'm like,
babies?
seriously,
And,
who
They
says that
always
good
ask
African
us.
men don't cook? My friend, but I don't cook. But what I'm trying to say is this, you know.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say
Yes,
is
yes.
that I know a friend here in Norway, by the way, who is an amazing cook. I mean, we were in the wedding last weekend,
Yeah.
and this brother made food.
Yeah, man, that food was amazing.
It was
And
amazing.
That was an African
It was an
man.
African man.
Exactly.
And he's married to a Norwegian
Yeah.
woman. And I remember I went to this brother's house, brother Richard,
Mhm.
and he made us food.
Yeah.
Even my wife
Yes.
was amazed. I mean,
Yeah.
my wife still didn't realize that he cooks the food.
Mhm.
And it's not to say that, you know, she didn't want to know, but the point is this, is that we are just pictured, we are trained to picture
Exactly.
African men
Yes.
to sit with a cigar
Yes.
while the wife is cooking.
Yes.
But that's
But-
not true.